Welcome back to The Truth is Viral. I'm your host, Bob Powell, and on today's show we have a very exciting guest. His name is Dr. Jim Garrow. Dr. Garrow has been a philanthropist and an educator running schools and orphanages in China. Over his career, he's helped save tens of thousands of young Chinese girls from the communist state's repressive one-child policy. But what nobody knew was during this entire time, for the last 45 years, Dr. Garrow was also acting as a spy for the Central Intelligence Agency. And during that time, he has gathered a lot of dirt on Barack Obama, and he is going to share it with us today. Before we get to that interview, though, I want to remind everybody that this weekend, you can catch The Truth is Viral as it goes live for the very first time on the Guerrilla Media Network. We are going to be providing round-the-clock coverage of the trucker protest that's going to descend on Washington, D.C. and other venues across the nation. Back on September 11th, 1.3 million bikers thundered through town. Took them all day because they didn't have a permit. Actually, I think that was a good idea, because all day long, our legislators heard these bikes roaring through town, reminding them that the people are angry. But because the rest of the country didn't know about it, because it didn't receive any coverage on the major networks, I think it got maybe 35 seconds on Fox, nobody knew about it. And if they can suppress the information, they can keep you in chains. I would like to see them, however, suppress the fact that tens of thousands of 18-wheelers are going to shut this country down. Let's see how they ignore or spin that. And The Truth is Viral and Pete Santilli and the Guerrilla Media Network are going to be providing you with round-the-clock coverage. So find us on guerrillamedianetwork.com and watch it beginning October 11th. This is going to be awesome. But right now, it's time to see what you came here to see. The truth about Barack Obama, coming from CIA whistleblower, Dr. Jim Garrow. Do not move.
Places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Keep this frequency clear.
And now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute. That powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff.
You're watching The Truth is Viral, the only news program on the internet trusted to deliver the truth since 2008. And now, here's your host, Mr. Bobby Powell.
Dr. Jim Garrow has led a life of public service to humanity, and one of his most admirable accomplishments has been saving the lives of tens of thousands of children in China. But for the last 45 years, Dr. Garrow has been leading a double life as an operative for the United States intelligence community. And today, he is our special guest on The Truth is Viral. Welcome, Dr. Garrow. Thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm well, and thank you for finally arranging this so that it actually happened. We've been trying for a while.
Yes, sir. Actually, I've been wanting to talk to you since I heard earlier this year about this litmus test that's supposed to be given to high-ranking military officials. President Obama wants to determine who it is that will fire on American citizens when this revolution starts. And he's been getting rid of high-level admirals, generals. General Carter Ham was one. You know, there have been several Marine Corps generals, at least a couple of admirals that have been dismissed from military service. And can you tell my audience about that for just a second, Jim? What is this litmus test? Can you explain that for us, please?
I certainly will. But let me explain the circumstances by which I came to knowledge of this. This hasn't come from me as an individual. This is actually coming from a high-level military officer, a retired one at that, who I've known for many years. I believe at that point in time I'd known him for about 17 years. And, I've overnighted in the man's home. I've had dinner with him and his wife. And, I've learned to trust the gentleman and consider him to be a friend. He had called me rather upset that he was seeing and hearing from officers that he had brought in early on in his career into the military and had worked themselves up the ranks as he had. And he was quite upset that they were now being asked to give assent to backing of what he believed to be unconstitutional orders or questions regarding orders that could possibly be given. The scenario that they were being handed was if in the circumstance where leadership above you, even up to and including the commander-in-chief, gave you the order to go and confiscate arms, and in spite of the Second Amendment and the right to have and hold arms that the citizenry have through that Second Amendment, would you obey the orders of your officers, the officers above you, and go and confiscate those arms if there was denial of either the authority to confiscate arms or to give up those arms? Would you, if given the order to fire on American citizens, would you obey those orders? And that was what he was relaying to me, and felt that it was vital that we get it out on the net to the overall population of the United States, to warn them that this sort of thing, an unconstitutional really question, because you really shouldn't be able to question the Constitution when it's so clear, as especially the Second Amendment, that this very egregious method was being used to ultimately filter those who would bend the knee to a leader rather than to the Constitution, in spite of an oath. And of course, officers do take an oath to the Constitution, but they also take an oath to the President. And it's actually his role of Commander-in-Chief, not the President himself. It's the role of the Commander-in-Chief.
Right. Well, Dr. Garrow, as I recall, the oath the oath is different for enlisted and officers. As I recall,
yes,
the oath for officers, it specifically says that they swear to obey the lawful orders of those appointed above them. And
thank you for bringing that up. Yes, it has to be lawful within the law, which is, of course, the foundation of the law is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights contained therein, and the Declaration of Independence, and then go into the Federalist Papers, and you have the overall scenario and construct within which law is given its authority.
I happen to have a copy of the Federalist Papers right here. And in it, James Madison says that when the power of the legislative and judicial and executive branch are combined into the hands of one man, then that man is by definition a tyrant. So we've seen good guys that are in our government and in our military get sidelined, fired, or otherwise unceremoniously dumped. Please tell me that there are still men in the military that have our best interests at heart. You know, maybe they'll even...
I believe there are many. Keep in mind that we've lost over 30 of the senior ranks of all the forces, and they have not. They haven't come out in public and actually said that this is the question being asked, but it is one of many that is being asked of all of them. And of course, those who believe in the Constitution have been giving the right answer, which would be no, I would not fire on the citizens who, in fact, were exercising everything under the law, which was legal and within their purview to have and hold arms as given by right of the Second Amendment. So we've lost many leaders, but we still have leaders in there who either have not been asked the question or have given, basically they've kept their fingers crossed and given an assent to obedience, which they believe they're giving rightly so that they can, in fact, assert authority at the right time.
Well, that's good news. I kind of knew that there would have to be, because there has not been a tyranny that has ever existed on the face of the earth that did not have some kind of a fifth column inside of it. And I know, I just know down in my heart that there are men in high levels in our military that still take the oath of office seriously, and that they will give their lives before they betray the Constitution. I'm counting on that, and we need to give them, all the help that we can. The government recently took delivery of 7,500 fully automatic assault weapons. This is on top of what they already had. 2,800 mine-resistant, ambush-protected armored personnel carriers, 2 billion rounds of hollow point ammunition, and I don't care what excuse they try to give from the government, hollow point ammunition is not used for training. That's enough. They've bought enough ammunition to fight a fully engaged Iraq-style conflict for the next 24 years. Now, talk of civil war is all over the internet. It has been for years, but now it's starting to leak into the mainstream media. Over on Fox News, one of their radio hosts that specializes in religion, goes by the name of Todd Starnes, posted on Facebook just yesterday that he can smell the winds of a new American Revolution brewing. And he's not the only one. I'm seeing this all over, and it's not just on conspiracy websites, it's in the mainstream media. It's in the conversation that it seems like a new revolution is brewing, a new civil war. The Obama administration with this government shutdown is purposely trying to make things just as bad for people as they possibly can. And instead of stopping making instead of taking the money from NASA, who has lately been making videos for the Arabs to make them feel better about inventing the zero. Take that money and fund cancer research at the National Institutes of Health. Take the money that Obama just sent to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Matter of fact, cancel that check. Bring it back here to the United States and open up the Iwo Jima Memorial so that World War II veterans can pay their last respects one last time, because they're not going to be here much longer. And he's locking people out of their homes. He's cut off entire sections of the Colorado River. You can't even get in a canoe and go down the river anymore. But Obama is not in this alone, is he, Dr. Garrow? There's a woman that's been by his side, holding his hand, changing his diapers since he was just a little political baby, and her name is Valerie Jarrett. Now, last year on this show, CIA spy Reza Khalili told me about Valerie Jarrett, who's not an elected official. She's a White House advisor, flying around the Middle East, making deals, secret deals with the Iranians. And the week after I broadcast that episode, it came out in the New York Times that it was true. So why, Dr. Garrow, is this Iranian-born dual citizen running around the Middle East making secret deals with the Iranians?
Well, I guess the easiest answer to that is because she is politically and through family connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. And so it makes it quite easy for her to make these contacts, because her family, her father and mother, have been quite active with the Muslim Brotherhood. And if that's the purpose that the president has in mind, making sure that the connection is wide open to him, through Valerie Jarrett, then he is certainly serving that purpose. But as far as Valerie Jarrett having been vetted properly, she would never have been given clearance to the degree that she's been given if she went through the regular vetting process. The very fact of relatives who are working with the Muslim Brotherhood would have disqualified her instantly. But, of course, she never went through the vetting process because she is a political ally of the president. So I think we should be clear in a few things that are going on, and I think your listeners, I think, appreciate what they are seeing, because what we are really seeing is the President of the United States taking control of areas that the Constitution never gave him control of. And what he's showing us quite glaringly is that the power that he has is such, and the fact of no one standing up to him, nobody's standing up for the Constitution in the end, really. I'm waiting for that very first sheriff who goes and tries to arrest him for having violated the Constitution. That's what I'm waiting for. That brave person who'll probably get gunned down like we hear other people are being gunned down. But in any case, the message is very loud and clear to the American public that the president feels, this president feels, that his level of control goes far beyond those defined duties and responsibilities given him by the Constitution. Of course, the powers that have never been clearly defined rest with we the people. And so the power is supposed to be with the people, and we have servants who work for us. But what is turning out here is that the message very clearly is being put out there that the president believes that he does not serve the people, that the people, in fact, serve him. And that's a very dangerous message. But we see it very clearly with what he's done. Never listen to what he says, because all that is spin. Watch what he does, and you see a clear picture of who you're dealing with. And a despot, a tyrant, is exactly who this man is.
When I was speaking with Reza Khalili last year, I came up with this theory. And it is that Obama has a back door with Iran that he's opened up through Valerie Jarrett, and he is making deals with them so that once this war with Israel begins, even though now I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. The war in Syria right now, okay, everybody thinks that the United States is out of it. Okay, well, they've got another think coming, because the al-Qaeda terrorists that Obama has been funding in Syria have promised, and I believe them when they say this, that if it looks like they're going to lose, and Bashar Assad has been kicking their butts from one end of the country to the other, but they said if it looks like they're going to lose, then they are going to take the chemical weapons that they just killed a bunch of children with in Ghouta, just outside of Damascus, and they're going to aim them at Israel. Now, when Israel gets hit with chemical weapons, that's going to ratchet this up to a whole new level. And I believe that Israel will respond, probably with nuclear weapons. Because when the Israelis say never again, honey baby, I'm here to tell you they mean it. And, they would take a special offense at a gas attack, I would think. So, once hostilities with Israel begin, after having come out of Syria, what do you think is going to happen? The United States is going to get dragged right into it. Okay? Once the United States, which is the big Satan, remember, in Iranian propaganda, Israel's the little Satan, the United States is the big Satan. Once these hostilities begin, Reza and I had talked about how there are 40,000 Iranian agents scattered throughout Europe and the United States that will begin terrorist attacks. I mean, you remember what happened when John Lee Malvo and his boyfriend were running around Washington, D.C. for a couple of weeks several years ago. They shut down the entire area. People were afraid to go out and get gas. Well, and this mall in Kenya, Mall of America is in Minneapolis. That's the home of the biggest al-Shabaab population in the United States. And I'm afraid something like that's going to happen. But even worse, here's where it gets sticky. There is no way on God's green earth that the United States military, those that would fire on American citizens, plus the Department of Homeland Security, would ever be able to take on the American people. Whether he said it actually or not, the quote is attributed to Admiral Yamamoto during World War II, that they didn't dare invade the United States because there would be a rifle behind every blade of grass. And that is still true today. So here's my theory, Dr. Garrow, and I would like to ask your opinion of it. Okay, we've got Barack Obama sending Valerie Jarrett to Iran, making secret deals with them. They already have nuclear weapons, according to CIA spy Reza Khalili. From a couple of different sources, they've been enriching their own uranium, plus they have a couple of warheads that they purchased from the former Soviet Republic of Kazakhstan after the fall of the Soviet Union. So here's what happens. When hostilities begin, Obama drops our shield. And all of a sudden, from both coasts of the United States and from the Gulf of Mexico, here comes Scuds on container ships and missiles from Venezuela, where the Iranians also have a secret rocket base. They don't even have to have accurate targeting data. All they have to do is lob a couple of these nuclear warheads a couple of 100 miles above the United States. When they explode, within a microsecond, every single electronic chip in the country is going to fry. And that will take the United States back to the 1800s. Okay, there will be no telephone, no internet, no way for patriots to communicate with each other. Within 1 year, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry of the Congressional Electromagnetic Pulse Commission says that anywhere between 75 and 90% of this country will be dead from disease, from starvation, from lack of medical care. That is my scenario. Am I pulling this out of my ears, or does that sound like something that might be plausible, Dr. Garrow?
Well, let me just say, yes, it is quite possible. Things are in place today that make us very vulnerable as a culture, as a society. The infrastructure that keeps us going very simply can be shut down. You used the example of the two fellows who were shooting people from the trunk of their car, Mr. Malvo and the other gentleman. And that was a simple way to cast fear and cause a change of behavior on the part of people. And that's just one instance of the change of behavior that so easily can take place out of fear. But what you're talking about is an EMP attack, which is very easily done. Of course, it has to be a nuclear device that sets it off to get the pulse that would actually fry the componentry that would be a part of our communications grid and network, the transportation grid and network as well, all cars, trucks, that would be driven through computer links, whether it be onboard computers or whatever it would be. They would be fried, yeah, and there would be no more aircraft operating unless it was old stuff, and same with old vehicles. They would still work because they're not dependent on solid state circuitry or microchip. So those things would still work, but that would be a rare instance, where you would have things operating. But for the most part, everything else would fry in place, which means that the highways would be littered. The cities would be littered with cars. Of course, the electricity would stop its functioning. So you're correct in saying that we'd be thrown back to the 1800s because we would become dependent on earlier technologies to support us. And where those earlier technologies don't exist, people would, number one, they would run out of water very quickly. Then they would run out of food very quickly, within 3 days. Most people have about a 3-day supply of food in their homes. So within 3 days, people would start to look around for food. And within 2 weeks, of course, you would have people beginning to starve. And, of course, the panic that sets in then. And then, of course, you would have roving mobs of people who would then fan out. Some would organize, and others would just go on their own. But they would fan out looking for food, foraging for food, wherever they could find it, and homes that were easily broken into. Or, the other thing would be people would be looking for homes that would have, or installations of solar panels, thinking that, oh, good, they can produce electricity, not realizing that, there's complicated machinery that is computer-driven that allows these things to pass on the electricity in a usable form. So right away they're beat as well. But yeah, society itself would fall apart because the constraints on us that cause us to act like human beings and having social contracts one with the other, whereby we don't do certain things, once those fall apart, I mean, we've seen it evidenced in American society already, any time that there's a blackout, when the power goes out, and you see people turning in basically to animals, and going back to what some would call a sin nature, just allowing their own particular drives to drive them. And they would run roughshod over anyone who had stood in their way. So, yeah, there's a real possibility that this thing could be orchestrated and could be planned. Mr. Obama is showing his cruelty already, just by virtue of not allowing people into the memorials that are meant for them. That's a lack of decency on his part. And the cruelty that involved in knowing exactly what he's doing and driving it with purpose to show the American people who is in charge. And that's a message that you will see driven home more and more by Mr. Obama as he moves forward and tries to become what he wants to become, which is
the Antichrist,
the ruler of America.
I'm pretty sure he's the Antichrist. If he's not the Antichrist, he is filled with the spirit of the Antichrist. We're talking with Jim Garrow, philanthropist, educator, and CIA spy for the last 45 years. This is an explosive interview, and it's only half over, so don't click away yet. I just wanted to take an opportunity to remind everybody that you need to subscribe to the Truth is Viral blog at bobpowell.blogspot.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and on Google+. Go check out our forum at ttiv.forummotion.com and vote for The Truth is Viral and into its Big Game contest and help us win that 30-second commercial on the 2014 Super Bowl and make the truth really viral. Let's bring the truth to the entire world and wake them up. You also need to subscribe to our other channel on YouTube. It's youtube.com/user/The Truth is Viral. That's where I'll be putting up my new 3-hour weekly call-in show that's being hosted by Pete Santilli's Guerrilla Media Network. Thank you, Mr. Santilli. You are one hell of a Marine. Hoorah. All these links are featured or in the description below. All you got to do is just go down there and click on them. And if you are financially able, please go to bobpowell.blogspot.com and leave me a generous donation, because it does take money to produce this show. And I'm living on disability, and they took $600 of that away when I started to produce this show, when I dared to try to go back to work, when I told the truth. They tried to financially beat me down. Well, I've been living with that for a year, and they haven't done it yet. It's been tough, but I have gone through it. And my whole family has gone through it. And every now and then we do get a donation. They seem to come right when we need them the most. And if God impresses on your heart that this is something that you should do, then please go to bobpowell.blogspot.com and join my army, the Truth Corps, by making a monthly donation, or you can just leave a one-time donation in whatever amount you desire, and it will help us buy Skype subscriptions, the separate minutes that you have to buy for Skype. That's how I conduct my interviews, and the high-speed internet that I have to get my shows up and put them on YouTube, ink cartridges, paper, office supplies that any small business needs to have. I've got to pull that out of my pocket, and my pockets are pretty shallow these days. We even lost our Medicaid. So you got medical bills piling up that will probably never be paid. But if I ended up in a hospital, I don't care, because the time is now to go for broke. We don't have much time left. So if you believe in what I'm doing, if you think that The Truth is Viral is worth a little bit of fake fiat money, then please help us as we try to wake other people up, save lives, and win souls for Jesus Christ. Thank you. Now let's get back to this interview with Dr. Jim Garrow. This is explosive. So yeah, this guy, I can't imagine any real American absolutely wanting to destroy this country the way Barack Obama is doing. So where did this guy come from, Dr. Garrow? What's his backstory? You've been in the CIA for, what, 45 years now? Surely you've got to know some dirt on this dude.
Well, there's a lot of information that's available that shows his background and his leanings, and I think that's a very important part. The man, of course, was raised by communists, taught from an early age about the perils of having been, as a black boy, having been a victim. And so he was taught these things very early. His mother was a victim. He was a victim. The grandparents taught him about communist dogma, that good people distributed what they had, but the wealthy in America, of course, stole from, first of all, the natives, then they stole from people who were enslaved and came over from Africa as slaves, always denying really the reality of the fact that it was the Muslim traders who were the slave masters in Africa. And it was the Muslims who were the ones bringing these slaves over. So great gaps in history, great gaps in reality are part of his background. But then let's look at who he hung around with in school. He was, first of all, he was with his friend in university who took him to Pakistan on a different passport than an American passport because it wouldn't have been accepted. He couldn't have gotten a visa to get into those countries. So he got in on another visa and another passport. But that young fellow was a bisexual communist that he lived with in the apartment that he lived in. He already had mentors. He already had people who were taking care of him by virtue of having bought his degree for him from Columbia University. Once he went through Occidental, where he was a mediocre student at best, going into Columbia, he did not turn up at classes. Because people, there were only 2 blacks in his particular program, and he wasn't one of them.
Well, wasn't that education?
We didn't go to classes. We know that a $20 million grant was given, a gift was given, with strings attached that provided Mr. Obama with a degree, and that came from the Saudis, and a prince of the Saudi family, the same prince who offered Mr. Giuliani $10 million toward a memorial, which Mr. Giuliani, and this is after 9/11, which Mr. Giuliani quite rightly turned down, knowing that it was an inappropriate thing to do. Of course, the difference between Rudy Giuliani and a gentleman like Barry Soetoro is that one understands what a proper and appropriate behavior is. The other doesn't. The other just does what he has to do to get where he wants to be and become what he wants to become and do what he wants to do. So yeah, there's a lot that could be said about different parts of Mr. Sotoro's life, and we really should, investigate quite thoroughly. And some people have. Jerry Corsi, Dr. Jerome Corsi, a Harvard graduate, has done a thorough study of, first of all, to start off with the birth certificate itself, where he showed quite clearly, and it's been proven in court, that the document is a forgery. And that's the one that supposedly was provided to the American people in order to prove that Mr. Obama was in fact an American citizen or born in the USA. So you've got things that don't quite gel. They don't measure up properly. Of course, anyone who would dare to speak against the proofs that were given is immediately called up on the carpet as being a racist, or they use the Alinsky tactics to freeze the opponent and cause you to be on the defensive. So we have techniques being used that are Marxist techniques for control that have been learned well by Mr. Obama, that are used with alacrity. That is just the way he operates. His modus operandi is to undermine any authority on the part of anyone who would come against him, and providing proof of anything immediately has the attack dogs of the media coming after anyone who would dare to stand up to Mr. Obama with any sort of proof. So we have what should be the fourth estate operating properly, which would be as a safeguard against government run amok or authorities that are operating outside of proper legal authority. And we have the media not doing its job. Instead of becoming what they should be, which is an investigative body that would safeguard the public from dishonesty on the part of politicians or on the part of government, which works outside of the Constitution. We have instead a group of cheerleaders. We have people who have been trained to be good little communists in journalism school and in the universities where they're taught basically to become Marxists. And they believe in that dogma so strongly that they're turning a blind eye. More than that, they're not just turning a blind eye to what they see with Mr. Obama, but they're actually becoming cheerleaders of him because what they're seeing is exactly what they want. Their savior has arrived. He's bringing into place and into being the very things that they were learning in universities to be admirable, to be the things that need to be supported. The redistribution of the unfairness, the undoing of the robbery that took place by the capitalists and turning the country into a Marxist-led and dogmatized place. So why are they not doing what they should be doing, what their job really is? Well, because they are complicit. They're part of the, if you want to call it a conspiracy, well, people who conspire together to a particular end are, in fact, co-conspirators. Well, what is the end? The end product that they want is a change of the society of America from a constitutional republic to a Marxist-led, socialist-led, a just society. That's what the Canadians were looking for, a just society. And they embraced socialism. And that's what they want. They don't want to embrace socialism. They want to make it through the fists and the gun, the authority over us all, that we then become servants of the overall good. And that's the way it's preached. That's the way it's advertised and marketed, that they're taking care of the just for everybody, justice for all, equity for all, equality for all, when in fact really what we're seeing is elites moving into positions where people who earned position through intelligence and diligence, and rightly so, are being usurped, and their positions being replaced by those who are part of an elite who know better than we do, who are wiser than we are, because they've bought into this whole thing of Marxism. I've talked a long time, sorry.
Well, that's great. That's great information. You probably one of the easiest interviews I've ever conducted. But I love it. But let me ask you a question. It looks pretty dark. It really does, because there are forces arrayed against us, and I'm not even talking about in the spiritual sense now. I'm talking about tens of thousands of Department of Homeland Security people that were probably rejects from the Army. You got private security companies like, I think Blackwater's new name is XE, these Dick Cheney, Halliburton type security companies that would have no problem shooting innocent people in order for it to collect a paycheck. But I've got to believe, I guess I'm an eternal optimist, that there's still some hope left. That's what I've been trying to do for so long, is to wake people up. I mean, I know, I've read the Bible. I've read it from cover to cover several times, and I've spent several, I've gone over the book of Revelation and Daniel and Isaiah more times than I can even count. And so I know what's going to happen. We are just now entering the tribulation, and it's going to be a time of suffering such as the world has never seen. As far as the rapture goes, I'm not convinced whether it's a pre, mid, or post-tribulation rapture. There have been convincing arguments set forth by proponents of all three. So the way I look at it is pray for a pre-tribulation rapture, but prepare as if there will be none at all. It's not dogma and doctrine that's going to save you anyway. It's a belief in Jesus Christ. That's what's going to save you.
You just mentioned something, and I just want to ask you a quick question. Were you ever a Boy Scout?
I was, actually.
Well, and what was the motto of Boy Scouts? Be
prepared.
Be prepared. So boiling it down to the simple, how are we going to survive? How are we going to make it through what's coming? Very simply, the Boy Scouts were right. Be prepared. So if I were to be asked the question, what I recommend that people do is get prepared. So that means be prepared for when the power goes out, when the water stops flowing, when the food is no longer available, and be prepared to have the kinds of weaponry that you will need to fight off overwhelming force because of roving bands of people who are basically starving. And where are you going to find that kind of support? Because you can't do it yourself and with your own family. But I would be networking if I were you. I would be, first of all, getting together with people who have had training in guerrilla warfare, because that's what you're going to need. You're going to need to know how to operate in neighborhoods, how to operate out of a home that's interconnected to other homes. If you're going to survive, you're going to need to prepare for the contingencies that will come. And those are easily identified. This is not a mystery. When society goes down, it's not a mystery what you will need to do in order to survive. So my best advice to anyone who's listening to this program is be like a Boy Scout. Be prepared. But do it in an intelligent and sequential manner so that you take care of those elements so that you and your family will, in fact, survive. And I mean survive for a year or two. And I've got to say this. Until January 21st, when I put the word out about that litmus test, I had never been one of the people who was part of any group that you would call preppers or, these people who believed in what you've just described, society falling apart and EMPs being used against the people. I'd never been that. Never. Till I heard that, in fact, a military leader was frightened of where things were going and the implications of the question even being asked about would you fire on citizens? Would you confiscate their arms? Would you fire on them? Amazing. What an amazing question. But if you use inductive and deductive reasoning, just follow it logically where it goes. Well, it goes right down to what you've brought up today, the fact that we're in perilous times. whatever label or name you would put on it. We are there. We're headed for it. The president is demonstrating total disregard. He's not even a nice man. He's a vicious thug, and we see it in the actions he's taking. And then he turns around and rubs the nation's nose in it. He opens the mall to people who are illegal immigrants and their festivity, and also to unions who, of course, have been his backers for years. And he will close the mall to the veterans whose memorials surround the mall. So it's a case of vicious behavior of a person who's really just a petulant child. He's acting like a spoiled brat, and yet he has the power to do these things.
Right.
But,
well,
you know, he's supposed to be the servant of the people.
Well, his power is supposed to be, I'm sorry for interrupting, but his power is supposed to be counterbalanced by the power of the legislative branch. And just a couple of weeks ago, on September 11th, 1.3 million bikers roared through Washington, D.C. I know that the legislative branch of Congress heard them, even though it didn't appear on the mainstream media. You know, they tried to keep it as quiet as possible. I think it got a whole 35 seconds, even on Fox News. 49% saw you on Fox News. But 1.3 million bikers thundered through Washington, D.C. And this weekend, on the Guerrilla Media Network, I'm going to be teaming up with Pete Santilli to provide round-the-clock coverage of truckers that are going to shut this country down for 3 days. They're going to go around Washington, D.C. That's just one of their targets. They're going to hit Facebook, too, out in California, because they've got a special beef with those guys. I think a lot of patriot pages have a beef with Facebook. But, yeah, these truckers are going to be going around Washington, D.C. and other major cities. Wherever they can cause a traffic jam, they are going to do it. They're just going to shut down. And for 3 days, this country is not going to move. Do you think that the people in Washington, D.C., our elected representatives, will pay attention then when it can't be hidden anymore, that the people are angry and they are rising up and they are making their voices heard? Do you think that the legislators will ever pay attention to us?
Well, you know, they certainly been put on notice that it is a very simple thing to raise millions of people to come and show just respect for those who died on 9/11. 1.3 million bikers came. Yeah, I was one of them. I was also one of the speakers at the rally. So, I mean, I was invited to speak, which was a great honor for me to be able to do that. But, you know, there has been a huge miscalculation on the part of Mr. Obama and also of the people in the legislature. They have forgotten that the people, we the people, will at some point in time say, well, wait a minute, you're not listening. And we're going to come, get in your face, and make you listen. They turned off, and this was the real indicator of the cowardice of Mr. Obama, when he turned off the traffic cameras in Washington so that the feed no longer went to the television stations. And, of course, you realize that during the daytime, people look on their TV at the cable television channel, and they see this live feed, so they know where the traffic jams are. That's just a function of kind of open communication to the public to keep them safe and to avoid things like traffic jams. So that was always available. Well, until the day Mr. Obama told them to turn it off. And he turned it off because he didn't want the world to see the level and extent of the discontent of the people of the United States expressed by 1.3 million bikers of all people. You know, those independent dudes who never get together and do anything together, all independents? Well, once in a while they'll join a club like the Christian bikers groups or the Satan's Choice kind of people. Well, they were all there. And by the way, 1.3 million people descended, supposedly angry about the treatment of the 9/11 remembrance and how a group of Muslims wanted to change it and make it something that it wasn't. Well, they came, they were there, they left, there were no arrests, there was no problem, there was no garbage, there was no disruption, really, of anything, except in terms of numbers of people there with their bikes. So they had a quiet, well, it was rather loud, as you know. In fact, did you notice that while Mr. Obama was making his speech from the depths of his teleprompter with feeling about 9/11 and the victims of 9/11, did you notice the little pause when he heard the sound of motorcycles?
No, I didn't. I'm going to have to go back and look at that.
I sure did. I mean, I laughed when and this is later because I was one of those, motorcycle dudes. I was down there in downtown Washington, having driven from Grand Rapids, Michigan on my bike with a group of wonderful people, the greatest patriots I've ever met, all the way to Washington, D.C. and back. But, they were coming from all over the country because they believed that proper respect wasn't given, wasn't going to be given to the 9/11 victims or the people who were serving the country and protecting the country in the armed services. So they wanted to make a very clear statement about who they were there for and who they were supporting and who they were against. And of course, the Million Muslim March, which was supposed to take place, and the 21 people who showed up versus 1.3 million bikers. What a scenario. And what I think truckers need to realize right now is that bikers have heard the message, that truckers are now willing to get out and be there for the American people. Bikers are going to be there too. So don't think you're alone, because I think you're going to see more bikers swarming around Washington than you'd ever believe. And they didn't ask this time for a permit, which was denied for that 1.3 million that came. There was no permit. Did you realize that?
Yes, I did. And actually, a permit would have made the process much easier. With a police escort, they could have avoided red lights and all that other stuff. But actually, I think it was great that they didn't get a permit, because that way it took them all day to get through the city. So all day long, the lawmakers were hearing the sound of thunderous Harley Davidsons in their ears, right, outside of their. And in this weekend, they're going to be hearing the sound of C.W. McCall. I know somebody's going to be playing the song "Convoy" off the top of their 18-wheeler. I hope they do. I wish I could be there to see it. Now, Dr. Garrow, there was a gentleman out in Arizona not too long ago that stood up in front of John McCain and called him a traitor. This
I remember it well.
This man, I don't even know his name, but I love this guy. I would give him such a big chest bump and a bro hug if I ever met him. I was just astonished that he would get up and say that, because it's what all of us are feeling. We see Barack Obama providing weapons and training and even chemical weapons through the Gulf state of Qatar. There have been reports that that's where those chemical weapons that the al-Qaeda terrorists were using came from. And this is treason. It is absolutely treason. They are providing aid and comfort to the enemies of this country. And yet when John McCain heard what that man had to say, he laughed at him. Is that how arrogant these people are? They think that they are so above the law that there won't come a time when we're going to come at them with pitchforks and burning torches and lengths of rope? Do they think that they're going to, escape that?
Well, I think they're quite afraid that people are organizing, and that's the key for them, to be quite fearful. It's one thing for a person here and there to stand up in public and make a statement like that gentleman did to John McCain. Quite rightly, by the way, what he said was absolutely true. I'd support the man 100% in what he said. But, when they see us getting together with others, then they realize the jig is up, that now groups of people are starting to get together and organize, not just protest, but organize for resistance. And I think that's the key thing we're starting to see. People recognizing what the government is doing, calling it right, naming it what it is, calling out Mr. Obama for the things he's doing. So the government is now seeing people who are aware enough to react. So the awareness is there, the reaction is taking place, now the planning starts. And that's the dangerous part and time for the government, because they start to see people who are aware, are recognizing what is needed to be done, and they're planning for it. So again, back to what we were saying earlier to the listener, be prepared. Get together with people who know about guerrilla warfare, because in the end you're going to have to protect yourself and your family and your neighborhood, and get together with people who know how to prepare things long-term, foodstuffs, who know about the gathering together of foodstuffs, who know what to do when the power goes out, or alternative methods of creating power if you absolutely need it. Communication is going to be vital. When the cell phones go out and the towers go down, that's it. Unless you have other methods of communication. Now we're going back to ham radio, which still needs power, but you can use batteries to do that. So again, we have to prepare the people. We can whine and complain, and frankly, you know what's happening. They're not listening. Okay, fine. Let them not listen. But let's prepare the people for the day when they have to step up for their families and provide for those families, either through protection, and you'll need weapons to protect. You'll have to have plans in place for that protection, and you're going to have to work with neighbors. You may have to bug out, get out of the cities, because when things go down, the cities are going to be tombs for people. You're going to have a place to go outside of the city. So plans would have to be in place. But again, I'm just saying this now because, as you said, things are happening. We're aware. We know that things are not going to go along much longer. And you mentioned the EMP being used against the population. And if that is the case, then we're going to have immediate need to have plans in place, stockpiled goods in place, weapons in place to take care of our people. So, yeah, that's where I think we need to go. Those of us who know better need to be informing the public, warning the public, and giving them opportunity to survive in the end. Yeah. Then we'll have done what's right, what's patriotic. We'll have prepared our people to survive.
That sounds great. Let me ask you a couple of questions about the people that have been vocal, the people that have been waking up the American people. People like Andrew Breitbart, Michael Hastings. I understand that they were actually murdered. What can you tell us about that?
They were.
Do you know exactly? Was it this video that Breitbart said that he had? Is that something that has never and probably will never see the light of day? Because it was the very day that he said that he's got a video that he dies of a heart attack. Do you have any idea what that videotape might have had on it? Oh, yeah.
It was important information that exposed once again Mr. Obama and his plan. So he was murdered because of that. And by the way, it was an induced heart attack. And you have to remember the elements that were witnessed by the people who discovered Mr. Breitbart as he was dying. His face was beet red. Now, that is a condition brought about by poison, not by a heart attack. You go the opposite direction. You go blue for lack of oxygen and lack of provision of blood. So we're talking about a murder that was done by somebody who knew the chemical need or the poison need in order to stop a heart and to stop systems from working in the body. And so there was an introduction of a poison to his system, and that killed him, of course. And then you have the bomb with Mr. Hastings that tore his vehicle to pieces. And of course, it's all about covering the evidence, and that's been done quite well by people who know what they're doing. And then, of course, you have Tom Clancy, whose body has yet to be released, and any autopsy that has been performed. we have no information coming out. That's kind of interesting because of all the people in America who wrote very wonderful books that were just engaging all around the intelligence that he was able to gather about how systems worked, about how intelligence services worked. He got those from people like me who provided him with information even well before his first major foray into that area, which was the Hunt for Red October. Yeah, I could go on. I could go into details, but I think people get the notion. They get the idea that, in fact, people who have stood up and were prepared to bring forward information that would have, devastated the Obama administration, and the people who are working covertly against America, they would have been exposed. And so these people were expendable. They had to be gotten rid of before that information was brought forward. And so those three individuals that we've just mentioned were murdered.
Yeah, well, Obama's got a large pool of bodies on his ledger. He is responsible, at least according to the Chicago gay community, he's responsible for at least 3 murders there. Men that he had relations with that were going to expose him or possibly might have talked. So he had them killed. Dr. Garrow, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. You are just an absolute wealth of knowledge. But before we conclude this interview, I want to talk about something very important. I guess this is at an end now that you've been outed by the Obama administration and you've lost everything that you had in China, but you were doing some tremendous work. Can you talk about that for a second? The pinkpagoda.org, the Bethune Institute that you had going on. What was that all about? You saved tens of thousands of kids, didn't you?
Yes, we had the privilege of intervening where we could in the lives of baby girls who were imminently going to die because of choices that were being forced on the parents with respect to a one-child policy that China has, and with the the traditional preference to have a male. People were making a decision if they had a baby girl to end the life of the baby girl. And so we offered an option and tried to make it something that they would easily say yes to by providing basically adoptions within China. At the beginning, we did international, but that was just for less than 2 years. And since the beginning of this whole thing, we've been able to save many tens of thousands of baby girls. And we funded it ourselves. It has not been a charity. It has not been a 501c3. We have used the profits from our schools, which are coast to coast in the country of China, and basically funded it ourselves. And again, we've got to say, thank you to God for providing the money, providing the protection, providing the network of people. The intelligence community of China has helped us, which has been a wonderful thing. So we just praise God for what He has done in allowing us to do what we've done. And to Him be the glory for having pulled it all off.
Oh, amen.
We've been servants in the whole process and been very pleased to be able to do what we've done.
Well, I think that's just awesome. You're going to have a whole bunch of crowns waiting for you when you get up to heaven, brother. So you are an extremely brave man. You say that people that are bringing the information out, like Breitbart and Hastings and Tom Clancy and me, are in danger, but you're not worried about yourself at all. You said on Now the End Begins the other day that you thought that being a Canadian citizen and having had lunch with the Prime Minister is going to protect you. I would count more on supernatural protection from Almighty God, but just curious, why is it that you think that being a Canadian gives you any kind of immunity from being assassinated by the CIA? Because information is a dangerous weapon, and you are, really letting it out there. So you're dangerous.
Well, you know, and I'm glad you said that, but information works in different ways, and whoever possesses the information certainly has a lot of leverage. I'm not a stupid man, and I rose up the ranks of my organization and was #2 man internationally. So I would suggest that the information that I possess or is held by other people would protect me in my life overall, because that information, of course, could easily be put out there and do incredible damage to anyone who wants to try and end my life prematurely. I possess, having been one of the people who gave Tom Clancy information and others information, I feel secure in knowing that if they made the error of attempting to end my life, then we would make sure that many other lives would end as a result, and maybe careers and possibly political lives would end.
Well, Dr. Garrow, I just have to say it again. God bless you for your bravery. And I kind of look at it this way. I look at it the way Stonewall Jackson used to look at it. I will die when God has appointed me to die, and not a single moment before. And until
Amen.
then, The Truth is Viral is going to continue to bring you great guests like Dr. Jim Garrow, philanthropist, and 45 years in the Central Intelligence Agency. This man knows what he's talking about. You need to listen to him. So, Dr. Garrow, thank you very much, sir, for appearing on The Truth is Viral. I do appreciate it, and I hope to get a chance to talk to you again sometime.
Thank you, Mr. Pell. Appreciate it.
Have a good day. Well, that was Dr. Jim Garrow. I told you it was going to be an awesome interview. I am so blessed to have had that opportunity to speak with him, and I'd like to thank my friend Brooke McGowan for arranging that. She's an awesome lady that had a big hand in organizing the 2 Million Bikers to DC rally. And thank you, Brooke. That was awesome. But better than I'm sorry to say it, but even better than the 1.3 million bikers are going to be all those tens of thousands of 18-wheeler trucks that are going to shut down the nation's capital this weekend. And they're going to take a little surprise to Facebook, too. I would love to be a fly on the wall when they deliver a copy of the United States Constitution to Mark Zuckerberg's office. Ooh, baby. But I'm just going to have to cover all this good stuff from right up here in Alpena, Michigan. But don't you miss it. This is going to be awesome. You need to subscribe to The Truth is Viral right here at Old Core BLT13 on YouTube. Subscribe to our secondary channel. That's youtube.com/user/The Truth is Viral. Subscribe to our Facebook page before Facebook shuts it down. That's facebook.com/The Truth is Viral. And then there's The Truth is Viral 2. That's the number 2 that you need to look for. And on Twitter, it's also The Truth is Viral. Twitter.com/The Truth is Viral. We are getting the truth out there all over the place. And if you want to help me get it out there even more, I need you to go down into the description below this and click on the link to the Intuit contest, the big game contest, and go and vote for The Truth is Viral as their small business. The winner of this contest is going to get a 30-second commercial on the 2014 Super Bowl. I was there at the 2012 Super Bowl. If you want to check out this link right here, that show is actually where I started getting really serious with The Truth is Viral. It's a seminal moment in the evolution of this show, and you do not want to miss it. I realize it's 2 years old, but the information in it's still good. And it was an awesome show. So you need to watch that when you have an extra 20 minutes. So yeah, like The Truth is Viral wherever you go. Share these videos on every platform you can imagine. If you click the share button below, it'll magically open up a little bar, and you can share this show on 10 different social media platforms. And when you do that, put it in an email, send it off to everybody you know. And when you're done with that, go to Facebook, like, comment, and share all of our posts, because only 14% of them are being seen. Facebook is holding the page owners hostage and forcing us to pay to have our posts seen. I don't have any money. So I can't pay even if I could. And even if I did have money, I'd still have a problem with it. But it's just extortion. But we can get around this by repetition. Post it again and again and again until the truth gets out there. The Truth is Viral has been seen almost 1.2 million times, thanks to you guys liking and sharing. But this is not the time to be patting ourselves on the back and taking it easy. No, my friends, we've got to redouble our efforts and work even harder. I don't mind putting myself out here on the line. I really don't, because as I told Dr. Garrow, I'm not going to die before a minute before Father has destined for me to die. So I have no fear. Not of them, anyway. And you shouldn't have any fear either, because our King is coming. And just before everything gets really super bad, we're gone. Before that happens, though, the mission of this show, my motto, is to save lives and win souls for Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not going to beat you over the head with my Bible. Probably wouldn't do a whole lot of damage anyway. But I am going to show you the truth of the Scripture through the prophecies that were predicted, that were given to Old Testament prophets long ago. The prophecies of Jesus Christ and the prophecies of the book of Revelation. They're all coming true right now. You can read Ezekiel 38 and 39, and it's just like reading today's headlines. So if prophecy, as it was given 2,500 to 3,500 years ago to a bunch of Bronze Age sheep herders, if that was 100% accurate, that's playing out on the world stage today, you gotta acknowledge that there is a higher power, a being that can stand outside of our space-time and see our history from beginning to end. And to help us make the right decisions, to help us do the right thing, he told us what was going to happen. There's a message in the Bible for every generation, and the message for this generation is that time is running out. Matter of fact, we're almost out of time. So if you love your family, if you care about your friends, if you want to save them from the hell that's going to be coming on this earth in very short order, you need to stop worrying that they're going to think that you are a tinfoil hat wearing religious nut job. That's what I worried about when it came to my daughter. Now, if you want the whole story, you can click this link right here that's titled My Inspiration. Because I didn't want to push my daughter out of my life, I did not tell her the truth about Jesus Christ. She'd always look at me and she'd say, "Oh, Daddy, you know I don't believe in that." Well, rather than alienate her, I kept my mouth shut. And then she died. And I lost whatever opportunity that I had to save her. I would spare you that pain and the guilt that I live with every single day. if you care about your family, if you care about your friends, you got to help me wake them up. It's that simple. I cannot do this alone. I can stand here and rant and rave all day long, but unless you share this message, nobody will ever hear it. So thank you for watching The Truth is Viral. I really love you guys. You're awesome. Till next time, my name is Bob Powell, and as always, God bless, Semper Fi, and hoorah.
Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.
Smack, runner, your game is through. Smack, runner, I'm talking to you.